Hello, and welcome to the walkthrough of the Application Validation Assistant, AVA, a standalone optional tool to help streamline and improve the application submission process. AVA empowers you to submit higher quality applications by identifying issues before submission and improving compliance and readiness while reducing administrative burden. AVA gives you immediate feedback so you can correct issues and feel more confident submitting your application to grants.gov. It validates the application type, unique entity identifier, UEI, grant number, notice of funding opportunity, NOFO, performance site location form, and the attachment page count. A couple of important notes. AVA identifies errors but does not correct errors, and it does not submit your application. The power to correct and submit your application still lies with you. Please note this is not replacing grants.gov or HRSA validations or reviews for your applications. Let's start at the beginning. Once you've found the notice of funding opportunity you want to apply to in grants.gov, head to the Related Documents tab and download the full announcement guidance document in the table. Once downloaded, open the folder, and then open the zip file so you can review the document. Please be sure to review everything in detail in the guidance document to learn all the ins and outs of the opportunity and the requirements. For today's video, we'll focus on the Build Your Application section. Please take note of the required forms, the page limit, and which attachments count towards that page limit. All of that can be found within this section. This validation tool, AVA, reviews the SF424, the performance site location form, and the supporting documents that count towards the page limit. Once you're comfortable with the guidance document, you can return to grants.gov and head to the Package tab. Here, be sure you review all of the information on this page, and then in the Actions section of the table, select Preview. Scrolling down in the Preview section, we have all of the mandatory forms and optional forms available. Again, for today, we'll focus on the SF424 and the performance site location forms. Please note, AVA validates the SF424, but not the R&R form. And we know you may not always download your forms to complete and submit your application. But just as you may share the forms with others in your organization to work on or to review, this is a great tool to have another review before submitting your application in grants.gov. So once you've downloaded these forms and completed them, as well as any supporting documentation, to validate through AVA, you must create a zip file, even if you're just validating one form through the system. Your zip file can include the SF424, the performance site location form, and any supporting documents that count towards that page limit. To upload the file, it must be named in the following format: HRSA-YY, where YY is the fiscal year, -XXX, where that is the funding opportunity number. For our example today, we have HRSA-26-111. And this should match exactly the information from the funding opportunity details in grants.gov. Please note, if you are applying to multiple NOFOs, you'll need to create a separate zip file for each one and validate separately. After putting your files in the folder with the correct name, right-click on the folder, and then select Compress to and Zip File. And this will create the zip file for your forms to validate through AVA. Now we're ready to go ahead and validate those forms through AVA. To access AVA, you'll go to your applicant grantee login page, and in the Other Links section, you can select Application Validation Assistant. On the AVA landing page, the top section talks about details about naming the zip file, as well as which forms can be included in your zip file. Continuing down, in the middle section, we have the area for you to drag and drop or select your files to upload into AVA. Moving down from there, we have the Need Help section, which will take you to the Wiki Help page that will give you step-by-step instructions about using AVA. And at the bottom of the page is the HRSA AVA disclaimer. Select the arrow on the right side of the disclaimer to expand, and please review the entire disclaimer before using AVA. And once you're ready to upload your file, drag and drop or browse the files to add the zip file. I'll select Browse Files, and then select my test file, and select Open. Please note this is all demo data that is not real information in the system. Once AVA has reviewed the information, you will land on the AVA Chat Assistant page. At the top of the page, you can see the zip file that was uploaded, as well as a passed or failed message at the top of the page. To the right of that, there's a refresh button, which will remove the file that you have uploaded. Moving down into the chat section, you'll again see the file that you uploaded, as well as your validation summary. In this case, the test file that I uploaded has all forms passed that it validated. So we have 3 forms passed with a green check mark and 0 things failed with a red X next to it. Continuing down, we have listed that the SF424 passed, the performance site passed, and the application page limit passed. As you continue to scroll down, it lists exactly what was validated within the SF424. So we have the application type, the funding opportunity number, the UEI, and the organization name. As we go down from there, it displays that the performance site form also passed validation, and the page limit validation checked, and it displays that we had uploaded 53 attachment pages, and the maximum allowed based on the funding opportunity was 60 pages, so we are within that limit. And as you continue scrolling down, it lists exactly which attachments or documents counted towards that page limit and which did not count. So in this case, this shows that everything passed, and you would be able to feel confident that these particular fields on these forms have been validated and meet the basic requirements for that particular funding opportunity. Again, please be sure to complete a final review of everything for your application package to ensure it all meets the funding opportunity guidance requirements. AVA is just one tool to help provide that additional check before you submit the application within grants.gov. Okay, now let's take a look at what AVA looks like if something does not pass all of the validations. So I'm going to remove my file, and that will take me back to the AVA landing page. Now I'm going to select another file, which will have some errors within it. Select my file and drag and drop onto the AVA page. And now we come back to the Chat Assistant page. Here at the top, we show that it is failed, which means some of the validations did not pass the requirements. As I scroll down in the validation summary, it displays that from what I uploaded, nothing passed the validations, and we had 2 fails. Continuing down, it displays that the SF424 as well as the performance site failed, and the page limit was not validated in this case. So continuing down, our first section is going to be the SF424 validation, and it will show exactly what passed and what did not pass in this section. So we have the organization name, the funding opportunity, and the grant number did not pass, but the application type and the UEI did. So as we continue down the chat, it's going to display exactly what did not pass and some tips on how to fix it. So we'll look at one of the errors for the funding opportunity that did not pass. And it's going to display that this field is on page 1, field 12 of the SF424, and it provides a screenshot of what that looks like so you can find that in your form. It also displays what the current value was that was entered in the form that may not match with the actual funding opportunity in grants.gov. Continuing down, again, it lists how to fix that or how to find the correct information and is going to give you tips. And the chat assistance does do this for each of the errors that were found within the document. So you can then easily go back, update the fields that were not validated. You can then create a new zip file and re-upload the file into AVA to validate and see if everything passes. Another helpful tool within AVA is our chat feature. So if you have a question and you want to ask, where do I find the funding opportunity number, you can ask that and it will provide helpful information. So I'm going to type, where can I find the funding opportunity number? And that's going to, again, give information about where to find the funding opportunity number so that you can upload or update any of the information that you need. Please note the chat feature only will provide information about these forms and the applications. If you ask, for example, what the weather is, it will redirect you. So if I ask, what is the weather today? It's going to let you know that it cannot provide that information and remind you that AVA's purpose is to help with the application forms. But again, this chat feature is very helpful when you want to ask questions specifically about these forms or the applications. Okay, let's look at one more scenario. So I'm going to remove my file. This time I'm going to upload a file that is not in a zip folder. So I'm going to drag and drop just a PDF file. And when I do that, AVA pops up a message that shows an error for an invalid file name extension and reminds you to please use a zip file. Another scenario we'll look at real quick is if I do not have the correct naming convention for my zip file. So I'm going to select a zip file, but it just has a random name, not the funding opportunity information. I'm going to drag and drop that. And again, I'll immediately get an error that the file name format is not correct. It directs you to update it to the funding opportunity number. So we do have a few checks that will pop up immediately to let you know of errors in that basic naming or zip file format as you are using AVA. And again, you can re-upload a zip file as many times as you need as you make corrections to your forms to meet all of the validation requirements. So now that we've seen how AVA can help validate the forms for your application before submitting, let's go over a few reminders. First off, AVA only accepts zip files. The zip file may include the SF424, but not the R&R form, the performance site location form, and supporting documents that count towards the application page limit. The zip file must be named as HRSA-YY-XXX. As a reminder, YY is the fiscal year and XXX is the funding opportunity number. For example, HRSA-26-111. Next reminder, you can only have one set of application forms in the zip file. If you are applying to multiple funding opportunities, you'll need to create a zip file separately for each one and upload to validate. Also, your application is not stored anywhere within AVA or the EHBs, so you do not need to worry about any of the information being saved. AVA also, as we've talked about, identifies the errors but does not correct them. The power to correct errors and ensure everything is ready to submit lies with you and your organization. Please remember, this is just one check, and you and your team should still be reviewing everything before submitting the application. And lastly, AVA does not submit your application, you will still need to submit your final application through grants.gov. AVA is here to help you submit your application with confidence. You can use it as a step in your review process to take care of any issues, and then head right to grants.gov and submit your application. Thanks for watching.